You ever have one of those mornings where you wake up and the universe decides to flip your whole life upside down before you've even had your first cup of coffee? That was me standing there in my pajamas at 7 a.m. staring through the peephole at two cops pounding so hard on my door I thought they were going to take the frame with it. Their faces were all business stern, no nonsense, the kind of expression that makes you second guess every decision you've ever made, even if you know you haven't done a darn thing wrong. I opened up, heart thumping so loud it was practically its own alarm. And the taller one goes, "Sir, you're being accused of violating a court order regarding an unauthorized pool installation." I mean, come on, I almost laughed out loud right there, but something in his tone told me this wasn't a joke, not even close. Apparently Patricia Sanderson, that Patricia, president of the HOA, world-class clipboard warrior, had filed an emergency complaint accusing me of destroying evidence and putting the entire neighborhood in danger. Then came the kicker she was suing me for: $10,000 in damages to community property values. All of this, mind you, because I'd moved in 3 weeks earlier to what I thought was a dream home on Maple Ridge Drive. Nice trees, fresh paint, neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. I was still tripping over half-unpacked boxes when I first spotted Patricia doing her patrol, strutting around like she owned the block, clutching her clipboard with a look on her face like she'd smelled something sour. About a week in, I got my first official letter, HOA letterhead, and all big, bold warning about violating Section 12.4 for an unauthorized pool installation. I read it 3 times, and every time I finished, I was more confused than the last. There was no pool in my backyard, unless you count the sad patch of crabgrass and wildflowers the previous owner left behind. I stood out there scratching my head, trying to imagine how anyone could mistake my mess for a swimming pool. So I call up the HOA, figuring this is some dumb paperwork mix-up. Patricia picks up in her voice, man. It was like she was holding court over a kingdom of peasants. I tried to explain calmly, politely, because that's how my mama raised me, that I didn't have a pool, didn't want a pool, barely had time to water the grass. She just laughs that sort of snort laugh that lets you know she thinks you're an idiot and tells me she's personally seen it and that I'm obviously trying to cover it up with strategic landscaping. She says she's got photos and that ignorance of HOA rules is no defense. I should have known then this was going to be a long haul. From there, it was like Patricia cranked up the crazy to 11. Every day, more fines in the mailbox, each one another $100. Cease and desist letters. Notices taped to my door demanding I remove the illegal pool. She even lit up the community Facebook page, warning everyone about the dangerous precedent I was setting. The neighbors. Some avoided me, a few gave that little, "Hey, I feel you look like Tom Bradley 2 houses down, who confessed over the fence that Patricia once fined him for having the wrong shade of beige on his shutters." Yeah, that happened. 2 weeks in, a process server shows up with court papers. Patricia's dragging me to court, demanding 10 grand for multiple code violations, claiming my secret pool was dragging down property values, disrupting the neighborhood aesthetic, and who knows what else. She even said it was messing up drainage and breeding mosquitoes, blurry photos attached red circles and all pointing at what was obviously just my garden hose. Next day, I'm in the backyard taking my own pictures, figured, hey, if this is going to court, I better have proof. That's when I hear Patricia out on the sidewalk yelling at me about destroying evidence. She's got her phone out, threatening to call the cops. I ignore her, keep snapping photos, making sure every inch of my backyard is in the frame. 20 minutes later, squad car pulls up. Patricia had called 911, claiming I was operating heavy machinery digging up the yard to hide the pool. Cops looked more confused than I was. They left with a warning for Patricia about abusing emergency services, and I realized, okay, time to call in the big guns. Enter David Thornton, HOA dispute attorney, and as it turns out, the bane of Patricia's existence. David took one look at the case and just shook his head. He'd been down this road with her before. First thing he does is file a countersuit for harassment and defamation, then brings in a professional surveyor to document the property. The surveyor spent hours measuring, snapping photos, writing up a report so detailed it could have been for NASA. Result: no pool, no evidence, nada. But here's where it gets interesting. David digs up Patricia's history, and oh boy, turns out she's been president for 7 years and has filed over 40 lawsuits against homeowners. Most people just paid up to make her go away. She was running the place like her own little fiefdom, using legal threats as her scepter. Court day arrives, a sticky Thursday-packed courtroom. Neighbors crowd in, some for the drama, most hoping to see Patricia finally get what's coming to her. She sits up front dressed like she's about to run for Congress, all smug and composed, laying out her case with blurry photos, poster boards covered in arrows, and a water bill she claims proves I'm filling up my illegal pool. Her performance was something else, like she'd practiced in front of the mirror for weeks. Our turn. David goes to work, calmly dismantling every claim. The surveyor testifies, shows high-res photos, measurements, satellite images going back years. Not a single sign of a pool. The water bill. That was my new sprinkler system, properly registered, thank you very much. The judge's face says it all. At one point, he's rubbing his temples, clearly fed up with the circus. Then David drops the bomb, Patricia's lawsuit record. The courtroom goes dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Judge deliberates for maybe 10 minutes, then comes back and throws Patricia's case out with prejudice. Not only that, he grants our countersuit, orders her to pay $15,000 plus legal fees, and issues a restraining order. But he doesn't stop there. He gives her a lecture in front of everyone about the damage of frivolous lawsuits, practically tells the HOA board to get their house in order. And that you'd think would be the end, right? Nope. 3 weeks later, emergency HOA meeting. The room is so full, people are standing out in the hallway. One by one, neighbors stand up to share their own Patricia horror stories. It's like therapy night for the whole block. The board votes unanimously to boot her out as president. Patricia stands, knocks over a chair on her way out, mumbling threats about appealing. The tension finally lifts. Maple Ridge Drive feels like a new place. Life settles. I get back to my garden, wave at the neighbors, even get a few cookies dropped off by folks who are just grateful to see her gone. But fate's got a sense of humor, because a couple months later, I'm walking my dog past Patricia's place, and what do I see? Big old hole in her backyard, boxes stacked up labeled premium pool kit. Delivery slip flapping on the fence for all to see. Couldn't make this up if I tried. I snap a photo, couldn't resist, and send it to David, joking if we should call the HOA. He shoots back. Board already knows she didn't get permits. Hearings next week. Turns out Patricia tried to build a pool herself. No paperwork, no approval, nothing. At the hearing, she tries every excuse in the book: medical needs, rules don't apply to past board members, conspiracy theories. Nobody's buying it. They fine her $20,000 and tell her to stop construction immediately. Patricia refuses, so the board files criminal charges. Final court date, same judge as before. He remembers her, trust me, no patience left. Finds her guilty, slaps her with $30,000 in fines and 200 hours of community service. When the gavel drops, her whole persona just crumbles. She breaks down, years of bullying and games finally catching up. As she walks out of that courtroom, you can feel the whole neighborhood exhale. But there's this weird little voice in the back of my mind wondering who's next to pick up her mantle, because you know, in communities like this, drama never really dies, it just changes faces. So let me ask you, was justice really served, or is this just another round in the never-ending battle of neighbor versus neighbor? Drop your thoughts below. Who do you think was right, and how would you have handled Patricia if you were in my shoes? I gotta say, living here, you learn fast. Sometimes it's not about the pool at all.